completed talking to everyone who would like to speak from the Bronx, we will then open up to residents and attendees from other boroughs. So if you are joining us from another borough, you are still welcome to be here. And we look forward to your questions and comments after we hear from our Bronx VIPs for the evening. So our agenda for tonight, we will open first with the welcoming remarks and update from Federal Monitor Bart Schwartz. And then we'll hear an update from Deputy Monitor Dan Barnell. We'd like to thank and acknowledge our Bronx CAC representative, Robert Hall, for joining us. And if he has any welcoming remarks, we'd like to thank and acknowledge a representative from NYCHA for being on the line, Daniel Townsend, who will also respond on behalf of NYCHA if and when appropriate during the course of the evening. And we're joined by many members of the Federal Monitor team who represent the varying pillars that are part of the Monitor's primary responsibilities, particularly as it relates to lead, mold, heat, pest and waste, know that I have elevators, and organizational structure.
Investigative
we also
background.
Have representatives from our field investigative team who go to every one of the developments in all 5 boroughs. Fred Baldino, who's also on the line,
so you guys can
will be recording this session, and we'll also be taking good notes to follow up on your questions and concerns. And we will note, though, that the purpose of today's evening is not to discuss any issues that might pertain to your individual unit. Please use the CCC for that. Our comments tonight should be restricted to what we call holistic issues, things that relate to your development as a whole. So with that, I would like to thank and welcome everyone for joining us. We know that there are many RAPs in attendance. Thank you for your leadership. And many board members, thank you also for your leadership. And many concerned and interested residents have joined us, as well as city officials and leaders throughout. Thank you all for being here. We do have a Spanish language interpreter. So if you would like to be in the room for interpretation, you will notice a little global circle at the bottom of your screen. So please click that so that you can hear this presentation in Spanish. With that, I will turn it over to the Federal Monitor, Bart Schwartz.
Thank you, Asha. I appreciate that. And good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'd like to make some initial remarks that are not focused solely on the Bronx, but are more general, although they relate directly to the happenings at the Jacob Riis houses. The first and foremost, it appears as if no resident was in danger of arsenic poisoning. And that is the most important thing that I want to stress. But that's not the end of the issue or the end of the inquiry. It really is just the beginning. At least we know that the residents were not in harm's way, but there are still lots of questions to ask. The day before yesterday, I called Daphne Williams, who's the president of the Resident Association at Riis houses, and the concern I could hear in her voice, feel in her voice, the concern that she had for her residents and for what they've been put through. And I'm sure that all of us can share in that concern, and we need to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. There's a lot of information being shared. Some of it is not accurate. That's not surprising. And one confusion that I would like to clear up, because it relates directly to the monitorship. There had been some suggestion that the monitor or anyone on our team had advance notice of this, and we did not. The first that I learned of this problem was on Saturday morning of Labor Day weekend when I got up
Oh my
early
God,
as I
this fucking
usually
guy
do
complains.
and opened my
Yo,
computer to
I'll
look at
work
the
it too,
news.
bitch. Shut the
And
fuck
this,
up.
of course, was front and center.
It
It
was the
also
Labor Day
showed that
weekends. Because you have a
there'd been
family,
a
bitch,
press
not me.
release and a press statement by
Yo,
NYCHA
if you
the
don't want
night
to do the work,
before,
step the fuck aside.
around 10 o'clock at night, but that was not sent to me and I was not
That's
notified
why these people get a
of
shitty
that.
job.
I
Motherfuckers are
did
not
get
committed.
a bit of a briefing
Oh, we
via
get a lot of
email at
fucking
about
whining and
8:30
complaints. Fucking
telling
disgusting.
us what they thought they knew at the moment. But we certainly didn't know of it in advance. And as soon as we learned of it, we got a team together and started to get to work.
We'll see.
Now, there are a number of different inquiries taking place, and I want to really focus on what we're involved in doing and what we're trying to do. It's essential to learn what happened and how it happened. And it's not simply a search to blame someone or find out if someone didn't do their job. That may be part of the problem, but that solving that one person is not going to solve the larger problem. We want to look, as Asha mentioned in the opening, we want to look at systemic issues, organizational issues, and make sure we're directed at that. In fact, the monitor agreement itself prohibits us from being involved in day-to-day operations of NYCHA. And I think that's a good thing because it gets us to focus on lasting changes, not short-term changes. So we'll be looking at the organizational issues here to see if there were mistakes made, whether communications were done properly, and what needs to be fixed. We're working with the New York City Department of Investigation, IG, Inspector General, and two of the things I think we can contribute
clueless, right?
is our deep knowledge of NYCHA that we have now, of the people, of the way they do things, and of the new organizational changes that they are making. So we can see if those organizational changes may help alleviate the problem that occurred. So in closing on this subject, I want to know that when I spoke to Ms. Williams from Reese Houses, she asked me to find out what happened. A very simple and straightforward and correct question, and to help them find out what happened. And I told her we would do that, and we are doing that. She also asked for, the way she put it is, I'm not a scientist. We need scientific help. And I told her that we would find a way to get what scientific help is needed if it's not already being furnished. And lastly, Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez has asked that I oversee the due diligence over any laboratories and similar vendors NYCHA plans to use with respect to the issues at Reese. And I told her we are ready and able to do that and look forward to that opportunity. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dan to talk about some specific issues where we issued a report recently. And then when we get to the question and answer period, if there are more questions about Reese, I'll be happy to answer what I can. I want everybody, though, to recognize that there are investigations just starting, and best practice and to get the best results is to first get the facts before we start speculating as to what happened. Dan?
Thanks, Bart. So as Bart indicated, our quarterly report came out a week ago. The two main focuses of the report are heating and capital, NYCHA's capital projects department and delivery, which is the report really points out are actually quite related in terms of what their main jobs are. Today was a hot day in New York, summer-like temperatures, and it may seem odd, and of course it's been hot really for the last 2 months, and it may seem odd to be focusing on heating in a quarterly report that comes out in early September, but actually heating is a 12-month-a-year operation. Between October 1st and May 31st of the following year is the official heating season, and that's set by the New York City's administrative code. But really starting in March, near the end of the heating season, running through September of every year is the summer preventive maintenance program, which is a critical part in NYCHA's or any landlord's ability to provide heat once winter temperatures start. And the key focus of summer preventive maintenance is to make sure that all the necessary equipment has been properly maintained, particularly cleaned, and any needed repairs or replacement of parts is made before the heating season starts. NYCHA has over 1,000 boilers.
I see you in the chat, man. I'm
located in over 300 boiler rooms.
You could jump in the meeting on the safe section.
Boilers are the main.
Let me shut this guy up because this guy ain't saying nothing.
Heating equipment, but there are other equipment as well in boiler rooms and around developments that it's also essential to. For 2021, and what we had been seeing and providing to NYCHA, particularly to NYCHA's heating department, was
they don't
not
want
good.
me asking questions.
They weren't doing a good job getting all the cleaning done, particularly of the boilers. There wasn't good organization. They weren't properly.
Listen, they know about
including
me.
the data.
They don't want me asking questions.
In Maximo, their database.
Sunrise are the same shit.
We were finding big discrepancies between what they were reporting and what we were finding in the field, and we were providing all those things, as I said, to NYCHA's heat department.
I don't know what the fuck's going on.
And when the season started, as I said, as we reported in April, during the coldest part of the winter, which was pretty much from the last week of December through January of this year, NYCHA had almost double the number of heating outages that they'd had the year before and the year before that, which was not good.
So what's the federal monitor doing about that?
The good news is that there have been a lot of good changes that have happened really since January of this year. We issued, we didn't make it public then, but we issued a pretty comprehensive report to NYCHA, HUD, and the Southern District in mid-January of this year of our findings from last summer. And NYCHA really took that to heart. We had a number of recommendations, again, having to do with training, having to do with having a specific written preventive maintenance program that all the staff could follow.
There's some people that just should rip off the system.
A suggestion
they don't
that
want to
NYCHA
confront that
really
shit.
Increase the staffing of NYCHA's heat department and a bunch of other things.
Exactly, right?
As you've heard Bart particularly say, in January, Sherrod became the chief operating officer. And at that point, the indications were, because he's
going on
from HUD, he's a career
federal
HUD person,
oversight, or is
would probably only be a 6-month stint, which in fact it was. But he and his chief of staff, and then NYCHA brought on a senior VP who's very good in April, have really done a good job working with the heat department, really providing them with more resources, providing them with a lot more support.
They've been the worst.
We are 2.5 weeks from the heat season starting on October 1st.
Fuck them.
We've seen a very different heating season this year than last year. There are still improvements that can be made. NYCHA's aware of that. NYCHA's very open about what's working. Quite frankly, the attitude is completely different, and the focus is really 100% on improving heating services. So we'll see what happens, obviously, when the heating season starts, particularly as we get into the end of the year and the beginning of next year when the temperatures will be the coldest. A lot of NYCHA's equipment is old and in poor condition, but we are certainly much more hopeful this year with regard to how we think
He said
NYCHA is
that
going to
there's no
do in the
arsenic in
heating
the water.
in the coming
He
heating
didn't talk about
season
the
and being
Legionella.
able to provide heat
We're gonna see
than
what's
they
up.
were last year. And I think the improvements that NYCHA has started and has made some good progress on are going to continue as we go along here.
This guy's so hopeful, right? Because he's got a
But
job.
again,
He's comfortable.
the quarterly
He not-
report is on the
it's not
Monitor
his water
website.
messed up.
I would include really encourage people to go and look at it.
He's saying I'm comfortable.
Capital is
with
the
way
second
things are.
area we focused on. And one of the things that I think people often forget when they talk about heating, when they talk about elevators, particularly when they talk about
I wanna hear
breakdowns
the
and
federal
things that aren't
oversight and
working,
see what they found
it's
out.
really to kind of lay that responsibility kind of solely either with the heating department or
Yo,
the
you know it,
elevator
yo,
department
like,
at
yo,
NYCHA.
for real. You damn
And
right.
in while
You
in many
ain't talking
ways
about
that's
nothing.
true,
It's bad. Just
NYCHA's
talk like
capital
those words. That's
department
God's truth. We
plays
here
a
to
critical
expose all
role
the
in this
BS.
whole process. And
Keep
it's
talking, bruh.
it's with
Look at this
heating,
guy.
it's with elevators, but it's with
He's
every one of the
hilarious.
pillar areas. As an example, recently it was reported by NYCHA's elevator division that 58% of their elevators are currently running beyond the
what
manufacturer's
statistics?
intended lifespan. And that's
Wow.
tough. And
Wow, you guys are
at
doing
NYCHA
great, man.
buildings, things pretty
Those
much operate on a
elevators.
24/7 basis. Elevators really get used hard,
What about-
given the number of people that have
Yo,
to
he's
use
just-
them. And so
Yo, it's so disgusting. It's so obvious. He's just
they
trying to,
really
like, make everything.
take a beating. And
everything's
so
okay.
while
Everything's
the
okay.
elevator and heat departments need to do
They're
everything
just
they
trying
can
to shut us up.
to
like,
keep
you
their
know, they
equipment
heard about
properly
the recent
maintained
thing,
and
they're just trying to
repaired,
quiet
it's
it
also
down.
critical
Let's
that
keep
the
them
capital
calm.
division
Let's
be
not
able
really
to
talk about
deliver
what
the
let's see if
replacements
the
for
federal monitor's
elevators,
supposed to be here.
for heating
So let's see if
systems
the federal monitor
in a
has
timely
revealed
way,
anything.
so that the worst of this equipment,
Have
which
you
becomes
found any
harder and
corruption,
harder
bro?
to maintain and keep operating as time
Do
goes
you
on,
oversee the work of
can
contractors
be
yourselves,
replaced.
right? I have my own questions.
And
You
we've
can say
had
the
some
point.
concerns, as the report points out, with NYCHA's capital division since the beginning of the monitorship. Concerns with how they schedule their projects in terms of when they say particular milestones are going to be met. Concerns with how projects are scoped in terms of how much,
There's nothing about
let's
the
say if a
actual
heating
procedures
system
in
is going to
place
be
and overseeing
replaced,
those
exactly what
procedures.
that's
the
going
key.
to include,
Scheduling is bullshit.
how
That's all
well
middle
they are
management
able
shit.
to attract
That's not
good
gonna make sure that your shit gets built
sufficient
on properly.
contractors to actually build these projects.
Oh, they didn't meet their schedule. That's what
We've
you
had a
do.
bunch of
This guy's a
concerns.
scheduler.
And with regard to schedules, at this particular point, the monitor's subject
a
matter
schedule boy.
experts and capital project management are seeing that projects are generally behind anywhere from 6 to 11 months,
Yeah, because that's how they get
which is
another,
not a good
that's how
thing.
they
And with
renegotiate the
regard
money.
to elevators, the concern is that only 2 elevators have been replaced at NYCHA since 2017. NYCHA has over 3,000 elevators. And as I said, 58% of them by NYCHA's own calculation are old and should be replaced fairly soon. That's a big problem. Under the agreement, which not only has obligations,
moisture
performance
sensor, like if
obligations
someone
for
pees in an elevator,
elevators
lock the
and for
elevator
heating,
door.
but it also has obligations for NYCHA's capital division in terms of how many boiler replacements and how many elevator replacements they're supposed to meet based on, certain timelines. By the end of
Hey, quick note
2022,
for you. They got a new thing where they're trying
NYCHA
to
was obligated to replace
spend
108
all the money
elevators.
that's coming in.
And as I said, only 2
buying
have
some new
been
heaters to
replaced.
completely negate
Up
the
until
boiler
about
system
2
that
weeks
already
ago,
exists.
NYCHA was forecasting that they
All
would
the
have
money that's being
12
scheduled
additional
for people
elevators
to improve
replaced
their
by the
lives,
end of this
they're
year.
trying
We
to make
found
sure
out a
that their
couple
buddies
days
get the
ago that that's
contracts.
now pushed back
That's
into
really what's going on
January
right
because
now.
of
On
supply
the safe side, can I have
chain
something about
issues
it?
in terms of getting
They're a pretty good
elevators to do
resource,
those
yeah?
replacements.
I would love to still be working.
So we'll keep continuing to obviously
look at it.
monitor
They
and
monitor- oh,
assess
that's the monitor?
capital
Oh my God, you're the
division's,
monitor? Or you fucking...
processes and
Oh, that's the monitor.
procedures
He ain't
and
doing
their
shit.
project delivery.
I hope that's
The
not
good
monitor.
news is that they brought on a new person to run capital at the beginning of this year. He and his team have been comprehensively updating all of their capital project procedures,
They found no
policies,
fraud,
and
they found
procedures.
nothing wrong.
We were provided
Yo,
with a
word up,
draft of
guys.
those
Say
a couple
that-
months
you're
ago.
damn right about that.
Our capital subject matter experts think that they're quite good. They think that it will really improve NYCHA's ability to both produce projects on schedule and produce them within proper scopes. So we'll continue to do our work with them
We didn't
and
find nothing
report
wrong,
out
bro.
how they're doing in
You're
terms of their
scheduling.
project delivery. But again, I would suggest that people go to the Monitor website and take a look at the report.
Thank you so much, Bart and Dan, for those updates.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
We have put a link to the Monitor's report in the chat. We encourage you to take a look at it and read through that when you get an opportunity. It is the 12th report, so there are lots of interesting tidbits in the 11 reports that preceded, and then this one being the latest report. So please go to the Monitor's website, NYCHAmonitor.com, to see our reports and updates and invitations to future events, and to follow along with the work that the Monitor team is working on. So with that, I want to again thank and acknowledge Robert Hall for joining us, and Lilith Lozano for joining us. Lilith, Miss Lozano is the CCOP representative who's also on the CAC and is also a resident leader in the Bronx. So they join us in welcoming all of you to the Bronx Community Meeting this evening.
Actually get reported?
And most importantly, we really wanted to hear from all of you, your questions, your concerns, your systemic issues that you're observing. You know, it's one thing from the Monitor team to hear from NYCHA. It's another thing that we have field examiners, you know, taking a look at things at the different developments. But you all are the eyes and ears on the ground in the developments day in and day out. You know what's working, what's not working, what's been promised and not delivered. And you can tell us firsthand the progress or lack thereof that you're seeing on many of these initiatives. So we really welcome this opportunity to hear from you. Again, we want to hear from as many of you as possible. So I apologize in advance if I kind of cut someone a little short if you've gone beyond your first question, or it's going a little long. We're trying to see if everyone can just kind of limit their comments to one issue and 2 minutes maximum, so that we could hear from as many people in attendance as possible. Again, first we'll try to hear from the Bronx, so indicate in the chat if you have a question or comment, your development and where you're from, and then we will move you over into the primary room. And if you're not from the Bronx, but you want to weigh in, please so indicate in the chat, and we will get to you as soon as we can. So with that, I wanted to ask if either Mr. Hall or Ms. Lozano want to give a word of welcome, and then we'll open up the floor.
Is there no misspending? Can you see anything? Is there any corruption going on? Can you see anything?
Well, this is Robert Hall. I just want to thank everyone in the Bronx, and I just heard what was mentioned. I really like the systemic ideas that have been put in place as far as the Federal Monitor is concerned. The problems that exist greatly would be in a transparency. It is vitally important that whatever happens,
who's the Monitor overseeing? Is it the contractors?
Okay, with regards to all of the problems that exist within any development, that the TA president be notified by NYCHA, as well as the Federal Monitor, if it gets to that point. Because this transparency issue is what lends itself to major circumstances, such as what has happened to Reese. When I heard what happened, the first thing that went through my mind was, what would a TA president go through if that was his or her exact development? And when you look at the history of what we've been going through,
you gotta ask me.
This excites the adrenaline
of
the problem in hand, and it gives people more of a picture, not to trust what they hear.
Come on, man.
And that is why transparency is urgently necessary, and I hope it continues throughout whatever is going on. And I just want to give you one case in point. A lot of councilmatic funds have been given to different developments.
I'm the bad boy this.
And there needs to be more transparency so that the TA president is aware of what has been given, so that NYCHA has an understanding, as well as the residents of the development.
What about the contract?
So that they can go forward.
Aren't the oversight to see how
this never takes place, and it should.
Yo,
It
I know
should
the
take
contract
place
is-
whenever there's finances that
That
are
you want
given
up on
from the
contract.
councilmatic
You're basically still in safety mode.
circumstances. And also if they
This is
allow
the first
any
defensive
type
play.
of capital monies coming in a development, this will enhance the prioritization regarding the needs of each and every development. So I'm just asking for more transparency to the TA presidents with regards to
everybody.
any capital project in question, upcoming, forthcoming, and historically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being a partner with the monitor and just rolling up your sleeves early on and working closely with us and being a voice for the Bronx in many of our meetings. We appreciate you. And we also appreciate the important comment you just made, the importance of transparency and communication. Couldn't agree with you more. Ms. Lozano, please proceed.
Yes, welcome all from the Bronx and all those that are not from the Bronx. We're all one family here. I always try to make sure that there's no distinction. We all are on the same fix and we all have to work as a family. CCOP, we were aware of what happened in Reese. We were informed in our last week's meeting that they're still working all the logistics out and doing all the thorough investigation. And they reassured us that they were going to submit their findings as Mr. Hall, to jump on what he said, the transparency. And we encouraged them as well that the minute the findings were completed and everything was done, we wanted to know who were the people that were involved. And we wanted to be reassured that it would go as well to the resident leader there and to CCOP, but more importantly to Mr. Schwartz. So that's one thing that's it's in motion. The other thing is that as the treasurer reelected, I was reassured by Ms. Burkett that the financial officer, we're going to sit back so we can find out exactly the expenditures, not what the resident need to spend, but what real monies are there. The fact that there are departments that to this day, some of them are funding $1 million a year that can be put in place to find out about the finances of those developments around the city. That money was supposed to be designated to that development, and we found out later on that it was, as NYCHA wants to call it, redirected, and we need to get some clarity about what does that mean. So that's another thing that we are looking into, that I'm making a commitment to look into.
Okay, let's look at Bart.
And also to make sure that we deal with the public safety issue. In the Bronx, we have so many developments, especially the ones that are supposedly represented, that I'm really going to work diligently with my colleagues to make sure that they enforce that code of conduct.
I hope this
because we have resident leaders that are not representing those developments, and the residents are suffering in the process.
And he has 1 star.
So
what is that?
We need to go back to the drawing board with NYPD, and safety and security. Doors are not are open all year round. Property managers are not going and making an assessment of the developments. I know that respectfully, I'm getting calls as the district chair, and I'm not getting the transparency with NYCHA telling me that, they're going to talk to the resident leader. What do we do in a situation like that? When we know there's no real representation and they're in name only, and they're coming to us as district chairs to try to finally get answers. It's unconscionable. And we have to set forth to start doing more than just talking and meeting after meeting. We got to get the NYPD. We understand there's gun violence throughout the city. But you know what? Is it fair to say that if there's shooting in one particular development, should the others suffer the disparities? So I want to make sure, with the cooperation of Bart and his team and NYCHA, that we go back and I really would like to initiate and ask if we can go to all 5 boroughs where it's neutral, that it is disabled friendly, it's transportation friendly, and start talking to the resident leaders in those developments about how we can find a resolution that none of us suffer from disparity, because one development is more in crisis than the other, and we have no officers with the drug activity running rampant and the buildings looking, you know, with drug activity and prostitution. So those are the things that I think that, you know, we are going to look at, but more importantly, to finally through BART to get a meeting. I remember we had one in Douglas House. I mean, not in Douglas, Johnson Houses, and it was effective. I think maybe that's a suggestion through BART's team. Maybe we can go and revisit that because of the severity of the crime in all our developments, the lighting. Good, huh? We're still waiting for public safety. They still haven't come up with a survey from 5 years ago about, you know, the lighting, the exterior and the interior of lighting, you know, and the scaffolding. So I'm just to put that here, I yield the floor. Thank you for the opportunity, and I welcome all of you, and thank you for this time to discuss the issues at hand and what we've been doing. Thank you
so much, Ms. Lozano, for your leadership and your support and your hard work. And thank you for raising those important issues as we open up the meeting. You've hit on so many that are critical and on the minds and hearts of everyone. So Bart, please.
Yes, well, I think you've said part of what I wanted to say, which is thank you for raising it. And then we'll take the next step. Let's get together offline. Your idea of the same visiting all the boroughs, not just where there's a problem, I think is really the right approach, so that everybody gets the protection that they need and deserve. So we'll follow up with you offline. Thank you.
Thank you. No tough question. So now I would like to turn to Ms. Floretta Hudson. She has been a voice on all of these calls and has been tremendous in helping to welcome and run and facilitate the question and answer portion, which is really this is the critical part of our meeting. So for the balance of the hour, we want to hear from all of you. So please indicate in the chat if you have a question or comment. Floretta, did you want to go on and tell people how best this will work?
Get the benefits.
Sure. We have put in the chat just some simple instructions. Please use the raise your hand feature or the chat feature to let us know if you would like to present a question or comment to the monitoring team. We're here to respond to you. I encourage the Bronx residents to be first in line for this, because this is, you know, your opportunity. You have the floor, and we'll begin with Mrs. Eldon, Dana Eldon, who is already in the queue.
Hey, if you're watching, jump on. You know what I mean?
Thank you,
on the
Ms.
safe
Hudson.
section,
Ms. Eldon, please
they
proceed.
got the link to this meeting. Jump on. You know what I mean? They might let you speak. They're not gonna let me speak.
Yes.
Good evening, Ms. Eldon. We can hear you. Ms. Eldon, I think you just went on mute.
No, it's doing its own thing. I pressed it and then it started doing that little circle thing.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, but
please
the batteries can be stored on the roof. The batteries
Good
can be stored in
evening,
the shed.
and thank you for having this meeting.
Doesn't mean the residents have access.
Welcome to all my fellow Bronxites and TA presidents. First, I wanted to make a comment in regard to the Jacob Reese situation. And although they came to the conclusion that it was a mix-up in test results, I think for the sanity of the residents there, that NYCHA should offer a full or comprehensive medical or psychiatric counseling session for those that want it. I think that if I had to go through what they went through, I would have lost my mind.
Money to these professionals. You could do that,
and I would have made myself sick. So I'll just say that I think the NYCHA should be held, and the contractor should be held responsible for any medical or psychiatric counseling involved to this incident. And then I'll move on. So the question I have relates to the tracker that NYCHA has,
stomach surgery,
which shares information on what is done in each particular development. I've used it. I don't find it to be effective. Right now in my development, I got scaffold everywhere. The bricks, they say, failed the inspection. The city demanded that they put up half the height of the building. That's like 100 feet worth of scaffolding all over the place. And to mention, we were supposed to have a roof that was going to be replaced. So none of that is on the tracker. So I would like to see that transparency, as Mr. Hall spoke about, become a reality. NYCHA tends to not be transparent, and they throw at you what they want. And when it comes to the tracker, I think the tracker is important for a TA president or resident who wants to know what is going on at their development when it comes to capital projects. And it's not effective. It's not effective at all.
You're gonna cook someone?
And I've even been approached by the group that developed it and did a session with them, and they saw the difference in what was actually being done and what was promoted on the tracker. So I would like to see something happen with that. You know, some transparency. NYCHA doesn't offer much, but give us some transparency when it comes to the tracker. Thank you.
That's a really good point. We're really excited to see the tracker go up, but the whole point is that it gives as much information as possible, adds to the transparency, et cetera. So thank you for making that important point. And hopefully NYCHA is taking good notes in that regard as well. And thank you. And Ms. Eldon, I just want to acknowledge you because you have really been really great in terms of attending these meetings in all of the boroughs and making really important points. So we appreciate your contributions and your presence. Thank you so much. And same is true for Ms. Tibbs. Thank you, Ms. Tibbs, for joining us, for bringing important points, for really being eyes and ears on the ground. So we're happy to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Cynthia Tibbs. I am the TA president of the West Side Urban Renewal Brownstones. I am now currently the second vice of Manhattan South District Council of Presidents. Aside from Maurice, since August 1st, I have been writing letters to Mr. Russ and everyone concerning brown water coming out of our pipes and to ask them to please test it. I have sent them pictures of the water. It's in our our kitchens and our bathrooms. The tenants have been highly nervous. We have gotten no response from anyone. I have sent it to the community board. Gail Brewer has been trying to reach out to Mr. Russ. Nobody from NYCHA is responding to us. I've now forwarded all my emails to you because I've been sending them since August 1st. And on top of everyone seeing what happened at Reese, while we may not have arsenic because it doesn't smell, it is brown. It is brown no matter how long you run the water. It stays brown. And this is becoming an issue when we have tenants with newborn babies that have to mix formula. Okay, I have filters filters in my refrigerator, filters on my sink. Is still coming up brown in the bottom of my filter even after it. So now I've had to resort to buying water out of my own pocket. And for NYCHA to not respond back is just, it just goes to show the lack of transparency, the lack of commitment that we have from NYCHA in repairing these issues. So I would appreciate any help in getting this resolved. I've asked DEP to come test the water lines. It is not just the buildings that have water tanks. My buildings particularly don't have water tanks. We get it from, the sewer. So it's old pipes. However, the buildings that do have water tanks, we have gotten complaints of dead birds in the water tanks. Our homeless are sleeping up on the roofs. every single day. This is becoming an issue. We are in the West Side Urban Renewal area. We're 8 presidents strong. We communicate with each other all the time. And I wrote this letter on behalf of my entire development, including Wise Towers. Even though they are now under pact, they have black water coming out. And PRC management has now decided to only listen to tenants for 3 hours a day. Their management office is only open from 9 to 12 every day. They're not answering the president at all over there. So that's why we have all joined together to try to get this water issue resolved, because clearly there's something wrong with the water on the Upper West Side. And I'm sure other developments, I know Ms. Quinones at Douglas is having the same problem. We have all written letters regarding our developments with this brown water nonsense. And we're not getting any kind of response back.
Thank you so much for bringing us to our attention at this meeting. I'm curious, are there tickets in the system as well too? Because we're gonna.
Yes, I've submitted the ticket numbers to management. I'll submit them to you because like I said, I've been writing emails since August 1st.
That's Robert sounds.
And management goes, well, we sent someone over and we couldn't find a brown water problem. Really? Do we need glasses? I mean, the 99-cent store has magnifiers. You know, you can see the brown water. If I can see them, anyone can see them.
Right.
So, you know, the excuses are getting out of control.
I just wanted to say that this is a good example.
Looking like she's one of them.
I'm glad that Danny Townsend is on, because I know he's a responsible person, and he'll make sure that there's individual follow-up on this problem. What we'll do is work with him, but also find out why it became a problem and where did the organization fail. So this is a good example of the different roles that we have, but we'll work together on this for sure.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And we'll follow up with you directly as well, Ms. Tibbs. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Floretta, who's next?
These people is like,
We have Julia,
they have to
who is in the queue already. Julia, can you introduce yourself and what development you're representing tonight?
Hi, my name is Julia Danley. I'm from Cary Gardens in Coney Island. And my question to hi everyone, first of all.
If anybody can see his questions, feel free
my
to
question
ask
is how much power does the federal monitor have to really come and make these contractors accountable for their lack in work in a place that's recovering from Superstorm Sandy? We're still without lights. Our development has no lights. You know, they put these pretty poles up, you know, at night. If we don't have the police light on, we have no light features over here. They're doing floodgates, and they barely work. They're not on a timely schedule. And I understand we was in a pandemic, but is back to work. You're getting a paycheck. Why are they not moving the work faster? I'm not understanding that portion. Nobody's making them accountable for any of this, you know, and safety. All of our lights, I'm outside, all of the lights are off. As soon as it turns dark, everyby runs upstairs because you can't see anything out here except for whatever the police light shows. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, we'll have another storm and we won't even be prepared. How do we recover while we're recovering? You know what I mean? God forbid if there was to be a storm. We had a tornado watch, right? And hurricane season is right around. And once the portal is open, we're open for that type of stuff. So how do we endure this stuff if something else happens too? Without anything sufficient for us now to live safely and properly. And yeah, they're lax on their work. They're lax on their work. They're not moving fast enough for anyone in Coney Island, especially in Cary Gardens.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you so much.
The accountability questions are a really important one. Bart, did you want to weigh in?
Yes, we've talked about accountability before, and accountability is a big part of the organizational plan that is being put together. But even more than that, what Dan Brownell was discussing before, where the Capitol Department is getting better organized and has new leadership. While we're not involved in the Sandy repairs. The fact is that's also part of the capital department. So if we can get the capital department to improve, those improvements should also be for the Sandy work. But there's a special group that is doing the Sandy. We're not doing that. Our role is to get NYCHA to make the vendors more accountable, not for us to go to each vendor, but to teach NYCHA how to do it. And I think we're making progress in capital, as Dan suggested.
Like me. Oh, Miss Canoas is going up. Hell yeah.
I'm curious if people are having trouble with writing into the chat feature.
Yeah, duh, you cut me off.
Working on that.
Yeah, you
in
blocking
the interim,
me.
if you can
Stop
raise your
playing.
hand if you have
Stop
a question.
Playing.
We'll try to
You're
get
being
to
live
and
streamed.
move you over to the room.
Yeah, what's up?
Floretta, who's next?
Yeah,
Thanks,
Yo,
Sasha.
you're not slick.
And
Stop it.
we're moving along. It seems that our Bronx residents are a bit shy tonight, so we're going to bounce around and
yeah, I was wondering how Coney Island got into
the So we're gonna get everyone in, and yes, as Asha said, if you could please indicate in the chat or just raise your hand, but let us know if you're a Bronx resident and we'll put you in front of the line. But until then, we'll keep going with those who have questions. The next of which is Beverly. Beverly, go ahead. Can you introduce yourself and what development you're representing on tonight?
I'm starting with number 1 right here. I'm gonna combine it with number 2 because I'm like that. I'll be like
Beverly.
I'm easing
Cortez.
right there.
If you can unmute and you have the floor.
All these are sick.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Beverly Oltas. I'm from the Bronx with the Glebe Avenue House. We are a part of Sotomayor, but independently in the sense where the building is separate away. In any case, our problem has been with the intercom system. Okay, it was put in, oh my gosh, maybe about 5 years ago. All right, it was working fine at one point. The thing is that because it's the intercom system where you look for the apartment, you ring that particular thing, you wait for the answer. A lot of people decided to give their cell phone number as opposed to a home landline phone. Now, a lot of people don't want to get into a landline because they feel that they would have to then apply for cable. All right.
Okay, check it out, folks. If you think about getting your water tested, I know when the inspectors get the water tested, and that's a good thing and a bad thing because I mean, if you go to the same place with inspectors
the
get the water tested,
Assemblywoman's office, Ms. Reyes, her office
who own those companies don't want to piss
reached
off the
out
inspectors
to
because that's the
NYCHA.
regular business.
They claimed that it was
so
fixed.
you need to
It's
find
not.
someone who's actually separate.
You can't even
and if you're going to get
read
your water tested, I would test it like
the print
maybe
that
New
gives
Jersey
the instruction
or not
on
local.
what
Yeah, I'm
to
sorry to
do
say that.
and how to
Okay?
find the
If
apartment.
you want to get your water tested
I
independently, which
reached
I
out
would
to
totally
the
do.
Congresswoman, no,
Totally
not
do, okay.
Congresswoman,
Scotch Guard
Councilwoman's office.
was
all
a
right.
pollutant that was found in Newburgh, New York. A
The
lot of
staff person
cancer
there
up
was
there.
told
You know what I mean? There was a
that
boy
they
recently
needed
died
a
from pneumonia
work
fibrosis. I'm
number.
trying to squeeze that in the question. We'll see if they
This
let me
is
talk.
an ongoing
raised my
issue. Excuse me. So now
Add me
this
to the
has
lineup.
been
Let's
this
see.
has been a back and forth. Fire department, when they come for an emergency or to turn on the
Yo,
elevator
I
or
want Bart to
whatever,
drink from
they
the
have to
NYCHA
wait
water.
for someone to let them in. The same
Yo,
with
that's the
EMS,
test right there.
the
You know what I mean?
same
They gotta
with
drink the NYCHA water. That's
NYPD
their office water right there.
or other
Water from nitrate.
emergency,
That's
you
what it
know,
is. Then we
people,
know it's safe, man.
okay? And it's ridiculous already.
You make a really
This is
important
a
point.
senior-
Really that
The
complicated.
By the
You gotta use
by
the
the
water
way,
from the
this
fucking
is
from
a
the fucking
senior
NYCHA.
building.
You get to
Yeah,
that's your
and the
water.
intercoms for all buildings,
Everybody
but particularly a senior building where you need to have access quickly, particularly in emergency and health situations, is critical.
We were better off with the old intercom system.
Exactly.
Good points.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. We'll note that and follow up with NYCHA to follow up there as well.
Why is she's authority? That's why she got authority. She worked for the monitor.
Ms. Johnson next.
She don't even work for NYCHA. That's Jonathan.
Ms. Johnson, go ahead.
Jonathan responsibility.
Okay. Good evening. Ms. Johnson turned it over to me. My name is Willie Mae Lewis. I'm the Vice President of St. Nicholas Housing here in Manhattan. My thing is, Mr. Shorts touched on the heating. As you know, we're getting ready pretty soon for heating.
I'm heating.
We were supposed to get new boilers starting in April of this year. It's been pushed back, pushed back.
Come on, Asian brother.
Also, the elevators, we were supposed to get those. Now, we had a meeting not too long ago, I think it was last month or the month before, when they said that they're only gonna do 5 elevators. All of our elevators need to be replaced. It's cameras, some of them are not even working in the elevators.
So much money.
When we first got our elevators back 30 years ago, we got all the elevators at the same time. Not 4 or 5 now, and then we don't know when we're gonna get the other remaining 9 buildings, because we have 14 buildings here in St. Nicholas. So I'm just saying, with the transparency, every time it comes time for us to get stuff, it gets pushed back. We're also part of Comp Mart, and we're still with NYCHA Section 8. That has even been pushed back. So the thing is, you know, we get tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know. And we're not asking for what we want. We're asking for what we need here, you know. And I'm just hoping that some type that we'll get some kind of work done, because with winter approaching very soon, and we're gonna have a problem with the heat again that we've been having for decades.
Right. Yeah, you make a good point. So in St. Nicholas houses, they know that there's the need. NYCHA promises these projects, and then you don't see them getting started.
I wanted to ask Ms. Wood, right, Willie? Maybe Wood?
Yes.
Yeah. When they told you that you're going to get 5 new elevators, did they tell you when you're going to get them?
Ms. Johnson, can you answer that?
Because I forgot, they said, no.
They didn't tell us when we were going to get them. They just said they're going to start. It's going to start at 5.
Well, I'm going to ask Dan to look into it, or maybe have some comment, because they're so behind in elevators, promising 5 to 1 building.
Bart,
make money on
Bart, what we can do is have our people look up in e-builder what the schedules are for the St. Nicholas elevator replacement. So what I would need is a contact phone number, so that when we look that information up, we can give you a call and let you know what we see. So maybe the thing to do, Floretta, would it make sense for either Ms. Wood or Ms. Johnson to email you a phone number and obviously indicate which person it is, so that we can return that call tomorrow?
And let me explain that e-builder is a software program which should have the accurate information in it as to what the schedule is, and whether it's behind, and a lot of other information. And we do have access to e-builder, and you have to have experts to know how to use it. We have those experts, so we can look it up for St. Nicholas houses. And I think when you give the phone number, give the exact addresses.
So who do we email it to? The email to
contact.
The contact.
Can only speak. That can only speak.
You can email it to me. It's B Schwartz, SCHWARTZ, at guidepostsolutions.com. one word.
Mindful Solutions.
.com.
Mr. Hill?
That comes directly to me rather than going through the monitor system.
Okay, so could you repeat it just one more time? Make sure we have.
We'll put it in the chat.
And I'm happy to put it in a chat for you as well.
We'll put Bart Schwartz's direct email in the chat as well as the monitor email, which we'll monitor. Thank you for bringing this important point. And next we have Cassandra Boland.
You can say something, Sean. Come on, Sean.
Hello, everybody.
The silent Asian brother, really?
Oh, hi. I'm
Good evening. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Voice, Sean.
Over here, Melrose. Me and the manager and the superintendent, we all have some type of rapport. We talk to one another. And when I talk to these guys, I have all these repairs that need to be done, okay? And they say, well, we're going to put it in for the vendor, right? So I'm like, what's going on with all this stuff happening? They tell me it's getting stuck. This is what they're saying to me. I don't know how true it is. They tell me all the work that needs to be done, the repairs, they're putting the work in, but for some reason it's getting stuck. Whatever the portal, whatever, I don't know, to get approval, whatever, the stuff is getting stuck. I don't know how true this is, but this is what's said to me. And a lot of these apartments need work coming from seniors. Also, I have an apartment that has little children in them. So that's just one issue I'm wondering about.
I think we should follow up online, get some more detail, and then we could go into Maximo and see if there are work orders or not.
My eyes coming apart.
And these tickets are getting put in, correct?
Yes, when I spoke to every month I speak with my superintendent, okay? And I go over a list of repairs that need to be made. And they say, okay, that's for the vendor or that's for, housing or whatever. But they're saying that the work is getting stuck. Nothing's getting improved. This is what they're telling me. I go over the same problem each month. And nothing's happening to that apartment or nobody's going to verify it or whatever. And they tell me that they're saying that whatever they're putting in to get approved, it's getting stuck.
Okay, we'll follow up. Thank you, because that's an important point, and it also goes back to the workflow and the organizational structure process as well. So it's really important. Thank you so much.
This is a lot of plaster work. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I think through our registration process, we should have contact info. But if for some reason we can't reach you haven't heard from us, anyone who we're making those promises to, please know that you can reach out to us, and we'll put our email in the chat. And okay, so Ms. Hudson, can you please call on who's next?
Sure, it's Muslima Adams. If you could go ahead and just introduce yourself, and you have the floor.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Muslima. I am the vice president of the Marble Hill Resident Council. I came on today because I have, even for my own self, have seen the lack of management, seen the lack of NYPD addressing the concerns of public safety of the residents. I've seen that there are recurrent recurrent offenders that are in the development that are affecting the quality of life of other residents. Management and the NYPD, they are aware of who these people are that are doing these things, and nothing is being done. And when somebody tries to address the situation, they are being retaliated against. These offenders are bringing, different things to the development. People are, a lot of the seniors, they are afraid to come out. They're afraid to be out at a certain time because they don't know if there's going to be shooting. They don't know if people's going to be doing, drug dealing and stuff going on. They don't know if, they don't know if their safety, if they're going to be okay or be robbed, which is another thing. And then we have the scaffolding that's up as well. That is an issue as well. Because of all the scaffolding that's going on, it's hard for the cameras to see what is really going on. And so I just want to know what can be done on a federal monitor level, what can be done to address these issues, because it seems like management is not really addressing this. The NYPD is not really addressing this. They keep letting the people out, and those people keep coming back to development. bringing the people that they from outside of development into Marble Hill as well, and they're causing mayhem to the other residents. So I just want to, and these are residents that actually live here too. That's bringing people from the outside into development, and they're causing mayhem for other residents who are paying their rent, that are coming in, going to work, and coming home, and they just want to, be able to sit in the park, and they can't sit in the park because there's people sitting there, drinking and doing certain stuff. So I just want to know.
Yeah, the safety and
they're doing the loud music. So I just want to know what can be done, because these are issues that are, again, this is things that's really affecting people, especially if they're blasting music. It's like people can't sleep at night because they're keeping them up. So I just want to know, what can be done about this.
And so many of the issues, like you said, connect to the next issue. For example, the scaffolding being up, it impacts the safety because you can't really see, the lighting is messed up. All of those things contribute to the increased safety and security concerns, which we know are just front and center for everyone in all the developments. From the monitor's perspective, even though that's not something that was in the agreement, I know it's something that the monitor team is focusing on. Bart or Fred or Joe.
I'll say something briefly, and then maybe Joe Jaffe can talk a little bit about what we've been trying to do. There are limitations on what we can tell the police to do or have the police do. One thing that we're trying to get them to do more of is the vertical tours, to go up and down in the building, and to report issues immediately with their cameras or with the other equipment that they have. And we've talked to NYCHA about that. We've talked to the PD about that. We'll continue to do that. And I know Joe
I'd like to talk to you.
has held a fair number of meetings with Chief Secreto. And Joe, maybe you want to talk briefly about that. This is a frustration for everyone, and it's a serious problem. When the NYCHA agreement was signed, everybody felt safe. It was not one of the issues, and it became an issue over time. And we're doing as much as we can in that area. Joe?
One of the things we're trying to do is work with Chief Secreto, Fred Baldino's on, and he and his group and others of us are working with their safety and security office to try to get safety plans put into place in each development. And it's taking time. It's taking too much time because they're understaffed. We have meetings with them regularly, and one of the things we will do, since it appears, Ms. Adams, that there are people who can identify the people who don't belong in the development. One of the issues they've had in the past with getting the police to do any enforcement or arrest is, under some memo they have with the police department, they insist on having somebody identify those who don't belong. I know that sounds like a lot of technical stuff, but if there are people, we can talk to you, let's set up a meeting, give us your number. If we can arrange to have people who are concerned enough come forward, perhaps we can set up something with the police to get something more active than it's ongoing so far.
And can I just ask this, are there any resources that the residents can call or do to try to address the issue as well? Because the officers, they know who the reoccurring people are. And those people are still living in NYCHA. So I'm just trying to figure out how they're able to still live in the development. And the police are aware of this, management are aware of this. I'm just not quite understanding.
What I'd ask you to do is, if you can give us a call, either send your name to Bart or send your name to the monitor, and we'll reach back out with you, talk it through with you, and see if there's something we can put into place, even though it's not an individual. It sounds like it's entire development that needs the problem dealt with. And we'll set up some liaison with Chief Secreto, and perhaps we can get them pushed in the direction to take the action you're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. And please just use the raise your hand feature if you want to speak and get moved over. I know some people are having problems with the chat feature. And I see that we have Carmen Quinones next. Please proceed and welcome.
Carmen.
Please, please unmute.
Yeah, thank you, Carmen. Just unmute and you have the floor.
First, let me say thank you for having this meeting. It's been a while since I've seen all of y'all. You all guys are so dear to me because anytime that I've needed you, you've been there. And Asha, you touched on the very point of the safety issue and the scaffolding all over New York City is really affecting a lot of these developments. You know, we've had these scaffolding on for years. I remember when they gave me the when they pinpointed the bricks, we had everything done and they're still up, right? On touching on a little bit about what Joe was talking about, let me tell you something. Our police department is being stretched in so many different ways. We're losing our NCOs. My NCOs now have 5 different developments. We get them only once a week. Once a week. I have 19 buildings. It's very dangerous what's happening now. Coming into the winter, it's going to get worse. To touch a little bit about what Joe was saying, Joe, the verticals are not going to happen. You know, let's be for real on it. It is not going to happen. We don't have enough officers, and they're just not doing that anymore. It's not going to happen. Let's not sell dreams because it's just not going to happen. Our police department is stretched from subway to everywhere else. And again, like I stated, my NCOs, which are 2 of them, and 2 of the best, have now been allocated 5 different developments. Cynthia Tibbs was on earlier. She gets them once a week too. We get them once a week too. So how do you patrol 19 buildings in one day? 21-story buildings, 20-story buildings. It won't happen. Let's not kid ourselves. As far as what the young lady was talking about, the intercom system, that will save so much trouble. It's a big safety issue that hasn't been addressed in over 25 years. People have paid for this intercom system over and over. They will never be paid back. They paid into it. We still don't have an intercom system. I've been here 38 years. Never had it. And again, there's just so many issues. I'm listening. There's just so much. I just now started getting water for my development. I am afraid. My water turns brown every now and then. I have grandchildren that are here with me, right? And I have 3,000 residents. I have taken TPA monies and have bought cases of water. Every day I'm trying to get 10 cases here, 10 cases there, because I don't know what's gonna happen. And as a leader, we must think about what the future may hold, right? I'm trying to implement what safety issues we need to address as leaders with our development, with our residents, making sure they have safety issues, letting them know to have a bag on the side with your documents, with your whatever it is, your medicine, whatever it is, in case you need to run. Let's be real, things are happening. And I'm a realist, and that for a while I've been trying to do the RMC. There's a lot of issues we're running into that. And Bart, I want to just thank you for everything that you continue to do. And I do want to meet with you soon again on the RMC. But let's not kid ourselves. Let's be real about what is really happening. I urge every leader to start thinking about what can happen. I Hurricane Maria. I almost died. I know what a disaster is about. I'm trying to plan for it. This is because scaffolding and doors and all these things are all open. And it's all safety issues. Not Chief Secreto, nobody can take care of it but us. And we need to start camping down on what and cannot do. We cannot expect the police department to do everything that what we can. Their hands are tied to a certain extent. Verticals will not happen. We're gonna have to look for different ways of safety. I urge the monitor to really think about how to get these intercom systems done. That's one way of doing them. Making sure our doors are locked, but our residents also have to do their part. Stop letting people break your doors. It costs me $8,000 every time I have to replace a door. That's money that we could be using for something else. If I just want to, I got to keep it real. And we have to all be together.
We appreciate your realism and that you always keep it 100. Ms. Quinones, thank you so much for your leadership and your points and your realism, because we have to really think about what can be done in a holistic way to really start making a dent in the safety and security issue. Because like you just said, like everybody's saying, it's all circular. You have broken doors, you have intercoms not working, and maybe if intercoms work, then people could have just buzzed through their cell phone rather than having to, open the door manually, so then people wouldn't be breaking the doors. I mean, it's all a cycle.
It's all entwined, Asha. It's all entwined.
And then you don't have the police support, you don't have the verticals, you don't have the presence you need, and the NCOs are getting cut when we need them more than ever. So
it's all realism. It's all realism, and we have to come to grips with it. And I'm hoping maybe even the monitor, maybe we can make get some communities together, make some committees on how to survive with this and how to survive in that. That's what we need to be talking about. Survival, real survival.
Yeah, no, thank you for keeping it real and for underscoring the safety and security issue. I mean, we can't underscore that enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, did you want to weigh in?
No, I just want to say thank you, Carmen, for raising it.
Thank you, Carmen. Floretta, who's next? And I want to be mindful that we have about 18 minutes left. So I don't want to cut people off, but I'm going to have to start cutting people off so we can get to as many comments and questions as possible. So if you could keep your comments short, and we can talk to as many folks as want to speak this evening. Next.
Of course. And Ramona is next. I believe she is a Bronx resident. And Ramona, you have the floor.
Good evening, Ramona.
Evening. So I haven't been feeling too well, so I missed a lot of the meetings. So I'm not sure if the things that I want to ask have already been raised, but I want to get confirmation of what the actual focus for the federal monitor is at this date. I believe that you were focusing on issues regarding lead, safety, and other things. And I want to know if those are still your priorities and if you're actually tracking to fulfill those or to be able to report on those when this the next deadline for you to provide feedback is reached. So that's my first question. My second question is, what has been done since the last meetings that you guys held to ensure that there's more participation and that there's actually a democratic space in your meetings for tenants? This evening, your chat is off. We're unable to see speakers, which is dehumanizing.
That's right, Ramona. Yeah, I like that. Yo, I'm telling you, Ramona, I like her. She's a fighter.
You're not allowing us to actually cross-pollinate our concerns and issues.
Man, I didn't know I was
live. And they're pretty much all the same throughout the city. So to close the chat on us, to not allow us to have that community building space, and to not be able to hold you guys accountable in chat is infantilizing. So I want to break that point.
First, I want to apologize because we do appreciate your concern, because we do like to keep the chat open precisely for that reason. It's an important place to be able to just talk, to comment on things. And all of our other meetings, we do always have it open, and that's an expectation for this meeting. And for some reason, we are really just having a technical glitch that we're getting notes that people are having problems communicating in the chat. And we apologize for that. That is just, I'm sorry, a limitation of Zoom this evening that is not working for us, but we agree with you wholeheartedly that that's an important feature, and we apologize. And then for the update, we may have missed it in the beginning, but we did release just recently the 12th monitor report, and that you can find on the NYCHA monitor website, NYCHAmonitor.com. And we did put a link to that in the chat, but always feel free to go to our website. And then with regard to speaking, you should be able to see the speakers. And I think we're just having technical difficulty, but most of our meetings, when you move over, you are able to go on camera. And so normally we have the chat and the camera feature, and I apologize that it's just not working.
If I remember correctly, in previous meetings, there has never been an ability for you to see the tenants as they speak.
No, we usually do encourage people to go on camera and be able to speak. You should be able to do that.
No.
So I don't know why it's not working, but in the past we have.
And then a non-technical question that I need to raise that I didn't hear being raised by everyone talking since I've been on is, we made it clear in December 2020 that the annual reorganizational plan, which the monitor accepted, was not up to par with the priorities and the desires of tenants. And those, now this thing is asking me to join as something else. I'm going to ignore that because I don't want to get disconnected. So the tenants made it clear through testimony and through the last hearing that you guys were having before that was submitted by NYCHA, that we did not accept the reorganizational plan that would actually allow NYCHA to institute the trust. And that was never taken into consideration. And now that draft annual plan and the significant amendment that we all just testified against where Bart wasn't present also continues the implementation of the trust. So I want to know from Bart directly, like, how are you upholding the rights and the desires of tenants in NYCHA if the organizational plan doesn't respect it?
Yeah, with all due respect, I think you're mixing two different items. I have not approved an organizational plan. NYCHA has presented its own plans, and that included the trust. But I have not approved an organizational plan because it's not completed yet. And when it is done, I will decide whether I will approve it. But I've been working with NYCHA so that the hope is we'll be developing a plan that can be approved. But it's not the blueprint. Don't get it confused with the blueprint. That's and the trust. I
understand that. I understand that the trust is being hidden and it's broken down in a way in the reorganizational plan that they presented to you.
It's not that it's no.
It is.
The trust is not part of the.
Give me 1 second, because you guys love to not let us like speak when we need to. The reorganization of staff and the reallocation of resources that actually implements the trust plan is already underway. So NYCHA is already moving employees and moving resources out of the spaces that prioritize our quality of life and our development, and is moving that into a model that implements the trust, right? So for example, the engineering teams don't have the necessary staff to operate 700,000 households because NYCHA is now putting more focus on the real estate team. So that's already in implementation, right? So like, if you guys aren't catching that, I'd love to sit down with you and look at how NYCHA is moving staff around and moving resources.
Yeah, I'll be happy to sit down and talk about it, but you are still mixing two different things. There is a neighborhood plan, which is a new way of organizing the way NYCHA resources are used and how they are shared, and to try to get things more local to the development. That has nothing to do with the trust, and it is part of their blueprint, but it's still not the organizational plan that I have yet to approve. So I think we need more time, but I would be happy to sit down and go through this, because we're mixing, as they say, apples and oranges, and we shouldn't do that. As I said, I'll be happy to spend time going through it. But I want to be clear: I have not approved any organizational plan.
So I think a sit down or some sort of like conversation specifically on how NYCHA is reorganizing itself is valid.
Be happy to do that. Be happy to do that. The other thing I wanted to address is in terms of participation. I think one of the reasons that it is a little different is that we're doing it virtually. Well, our other meetings before the pandemic, we did it personally, and we have to find the right mix so that everybody can speak. We have enough time. There's no effort to hide who the individuals are, or we're not to let them be viewed. We're trying to be as open as we can. There's no requirement that we have community meetings. We're the ones who wanted to do it. So I'm sorry if you see it differently, but we really are trying our best to reach out as often as we can.
Like I personally, I'm a Bronx resident. I'm on every email list. I've attended multiple meetings that you guys held before the pandemic. And I got this from someone else last night, right? So there's a disconnect, and we're 3 years past COVID at this point. So it should be better communicated. It should be better advertised. And if that means having NYCHA send it out and having community organizations send it out, including Safe Section 9, which I would love to share your meeting information with our readership and our PPH too. We just need to do better, because I'm extremely active, and
we appreciate I'll contact you personally so we could get more ideas for best reach out, because right now we are really relying on our tenant resident association presidents, who have been fantastic, and we email them and we call them and then we ask them to share the invites, but I know they're always overtasked with so many asks. So if there are better ways to get the information out, we welcome that and appreciate it. Okay, we're going to ask to go to the next caller. Thank you so much for your important input.
Hey, thanks a lot. My name's DGL7. I don't have access to the chat, so sorry about that. I turned off my mic earlier, and that's where I jumped in by mistake. Yeah, just wanted to say I actually worked as an inspector, right, in the NYCHA system. And the thing is that I saw federal monitors sometimes outside hanging out of the development, but I never saw them inside actually watching the inspectors themselves. Now, the fact of the point is that anytime you really want to evaluate a service at its true, right, at its truth, you need to be there at the point of service to understand what's going on. Another thing that I want to say is that non-transparency of pay that's going on between the contractors and their workers leads to workers getting rushed in certain time things, right? I think that that's something that could be investigated for better design, right? To discourage, right, certain behaviors from happening that will rush workers or, try to max out on cash, you know what I mean? We could really do better. And I know some of the ways straight up. Another thing that I want to say is that I know that we have resolves about this arsenic and stuff like that, but I'd like to be able to see tenants and also tenant residents get paid for, then be able to send their water to out of state, right? Yeah, to out of state labs, because the labs here, they're going to be working with the inspectors after this rush. So if they get the test done locally, they'd be incentivized to say everything's okay, even a little bit, right? Because that's their customers all the time, the inspectors. So let these residents, right, send the test out of state to get their water tested for everything, right? Scotchgard, we know, caused all kinds of sicknesses upstate and high cancer rates. There's a boy who just died in Reese Projects, 23 years of age, of pulmonary fibrosis. This is unknown, right? This is very questionable about what's going on, and everybody's scared. There's brown water. Let them test their water independently, pay for the test, You know what I mean? Can we get that done? You know what I mean? I would really appreciate that.
Really important.
I try to take good notes, but you went through a long list. So I'm going to ask you, Fred Baldino, who's on this call, who leads our field investigators, because a couple of things sound like they would really be within his area. If you could tell us how, if you could reach out to me, I'll make sure you get Fred or one of the members of his team comes and
I don't have access to the chat, so if you could just say it out louder. I'm DJL7 at DJL7.com. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't have access to the chat. I can't just type in anything.
Bart, I have the email. We can work with that.
I've just sent it to Fred. And we'll be in contact with you.
Great.
DJ.
Thanks.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I apologize. We're having technical difficulties because we do like to have an open chat and it just doesn't seem to be working tonight. We apologize. Same for Ramona Ferreira, who just spoke up, trying to reach out to you directly on chat so that we could follow up, and it's not working. So if you could please get in touch with us so that we could be sure to have a direct follow-up. So with that, we are at the end of our evening. We appreciate all of the Bronx residents for
Do we have
coming
one
out,
more?
and also the residents from all over the city.
Do we have one more person? Is that
Yeah,
is that
we have
all?
one more,
I'm so
Diana.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could get her in, Diana Blackwell. Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Blackwell, thank you. Thank you for being with us.
And thank you for taking me. I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to just say, can we invite you to a swab meeting to really talk about it? Because we would like to talk about waste, organic, and the DSNY, how they can help us with containerization here at NYCHA. So would that be something we could make that request?
Yes. That would,
Very good then.
We have an individual on our team who focuses on pests and waste because they're so connected. And we'll make sure that we'll get the invitation.
I'll get the invitation out, and we must. Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening, and thank you.
Thank you. Did we lose Asha? All right. By default, I guess I'll close the meeting. But what I just want everybody to know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bart.
I just want to.
We're having a lot of problems tonight.
I just want everybody to know that we each person we said we will get back to, we will. And if you want to reach out to us first, that's fine. But we will respond to everyone we said we would respond to. And I thank you for participating. Asha and Patricia and Floretta worked very hard to put this together so that we can talk to each other. And I guess the technical side didn't measure up today, but that's not their fault and that's not their doing. And we'll try to do it better next time.
Yeah.
I wish you all a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.